Talksport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.
Hello, Cherries fans, and welcome to another edition of Cherry Picking. As you can see, again, no Craig this week. Craig is still on his travels, which we'll touch on very, very shortly. But I'm very, very happy to say that joining me this week for this week's Cherry Picking is Paul. Paul, how are you doing?
Yeah, great, Matt. Been looking forward to doing this show. You couldn't have come on a better day. We've had beautiful weather here today. It's been like 25 degrees, not a cloud in the sky, mate, but a pleasure to come on. Yeah,
no, it's a pleasure, real pleasure to have you join us as well. And obviously, as people would have guessed from the thumbnail, we've got a bit of an Australian feel today, and that's what the weather's like in Australia. And obviously here we're quite blessed as well, but we've just got a touch of frost, but not quite as warm as it is for you guys out there.
Good program.
Yes, also a program. But yeah, we're going to learn a bit more about you shortly, Paul. But to start off with, we're going to do what we do every week, and that's our Guess the Cherry. You might be able to guess this one, Paul. But the clues for this week is that he was a centre-back and that he played for Norwich, Mould, I think that's how it's pronounced, AFC Bournemouth, Gillingham and Gravesend and Northfleet. He cost the Cherries around £30,000 when we transferred from Norwich, and he played 160 times, scoring 10 goals for the Cherries. So that's this week's Guess the Cherry. Paul, maybe any ideas on who that might be?
Mate, you've got me totally on this one. Haven't got a clue, Matt. Haven't got a clue. There was so many transfers went between Norwich and Bournemouth. You know, as you know. And don't know. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure you'll know the name when we reveal it at the end. And a classic Bournemouth kit there he's wearing as well, so that kind of gives you an idea of the era that he played within. But that's the clues, and we'll reveal all at the end of the show. So obviously with no Craig this week, we'll just give you a little update on Craig. He's currently out and about. He's in Singapore at the minute, and he's been to the football out there, showing off his Cherry shirt. He's been to a Champions League or an AFC Champions League 2 game, which is the Asian Champions League, and he's watched the Lions City Sailors take on Sydney FC, and as you can see, he's very happy being at that game. He's there with amongst the Sydney fans, and someone decided to photobomb him in the background there, which I'm sure everybody can see. But he should be back with us next week. But he's having a whale of a time, and I'm sure he's going to do some video blogs on his journey, and he's been to several places over the last sort of 10 days, so I'm sure he's going to update us all next week on that. But he saw a 2-0 victory for the Lions City Sailors, and apparently it was a good game, but I don't know too much more than that at the minute. But that's where Craig is. He's enjoying himself, I'm sure we'll have an update on his journeys next week. But back onto the Cherries then. This week, Paul, we've had a bit of a disappointment, really, for our players. Well, one of our players in Ryan Christie, who has obviously gone under the knife now. But just to quickly clarify on what exactly is going on, I should just take us through this very quickly. So the Scotland midfielder has been a standout in the Premier League this season as the Cherries chase a European place. Ryan Christie's season is over after the Scotland star opted to fast-track his groin surgery. Christie, who's 30, has been a standout in the Premier League as Bournemouth chase European football for the first time in their history. But the midfielder has been unable to complete a full 90 minutes in any of the last 9 appearances as he manages a chronic groin injury. Boss Andoni Iraola admitted his star man would likely need to go under the knife before the end of the current campaign after lasting just 26 minutes against Brighton on February the 25th. Speaking last week, the Spaniard said Ryan's situation is worrying because he has been dealing with a groin issue, the pubis, the abductor, a little bit of everything since the beginning of the season. He's so honest and he wants to push even with pain. He has been playing and he's played very well for a lot of time. I think it's a moment where his body is telling him that maybe it's time. We are trying to go with him until the end of the season, but against Brighton there were moments where he felt he couldn't anymore. That's probably something that we have to analyse. There is a chance we decide that he should have the surgery now, recover, take his time and be ready for next season. It's not something that we've decided, but it's a situation that we have to analyse well because I think his body is telling him he's pushed it a lot. And now Christie has announced on Instagram that the road to recovery starts now after all but confirming he will have his operation early. Posting a picture of him receiving treatment from a physio, the ex-Celtic star wrote, "Time to heal," bicep and football emojis. Scotland trio, Andy Robertson, Billy Gilmore and Landon Dykes were among the first to send their support on Instagram, posting love hearts. Follow Record Sport on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram for all up-to-date breaking minute depths. That's basically the article there saying to follow their media pages and things like that. But from our point of view, Paul, this is a massive loss this season. You can obviously see that he's pushed himself to the limits with that injury. And a groin injury, is never the nicest of injuries to have for a footballer. And fair play to Christie. He's really pushed himself, but he's going to be a massive loss now between now and the end of the season.
Oh, totally agree, mate. I think if they had an award for the most improved player this season, he'd have to be right up there because he's given 110% every game. And I think it shows his ambition, the fact that he went away with Scotland in that condition. It shows that he wants to push on, he wants to get as many caps as he can for Scotland. And that's great news for Bournemouth because if he's going to do that, he's going to be playing well for Bournemouth to impress the Scottish manager that he is, available and wants to play. And the timing, again, I looked at it, it's a 6-week recovery. And then, of course, he's got to get fit. And that takes us up just before the last game of the season at home against Leicester. Obviously, they're not going to put him on the pitch for that. But that shows you then now, with the in between the seasons and that, he's going to have about 4 months plus to recover and get ready for next season. And he's been brilliant. He's valued now, on the internet, he's valued at 15 million. And I think we paid 2.5 from Celtic, didn't we, or something like that? It wasn't much.
Yeah, it wasn't much.
No, what a buy, what a player. He's one of the first names on the sheet, isn't he?
Yeah, no, definitely. He's going to be a major loss. Christie, when he was at Celtic, he used to score quite a lot of goals. But I think you've got quite an interesting stat there, haven't you? That for our midfield.
Yeah. I think when you hear the chat amongst people about Ryan, the one criticism is he doesn't score goals. But I just stumbled upon this yesterday, and this is not meaning to put anybody down at all, But if you look at our current midfield situation with Ryan, you've got Alex Scott, you've got Tyler Adams, and you've got Lewis Cook. And I looked at the stats, and between them, they played about 335 games. And Ryan Christie has scored more than the other three put together, which is just crazy. I think they've scored 5 between them. He scored 3, and the other 3 have only scored 2. Tyler Adams has never scored. Alex Scott scored 1, and I believe Lewis Cook has scored 1. And you look at 335 games, you're looking at 1 goal from these guys every 66 matches, which is just absolutely crazy. And it's not in any ways and means to put anybody down. It's just that I think Andoni's looking to increase the goal situation from every player on the field, and there are opportunities when they get forward, these guys, and I think that's an area that, you know, just to bring to light.
An area of possible improvement.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I saw Tyler Adams in one of the games recently hit a really good shot. Just went wide of the left-hand post, and I thought, wow, this guy can hit the ball.
Yeah.
And surely, you know, going forward, when he does go forward, have a go. I mean, you know, we've seen where it can lead. And, yeah, really weird stat. But
Yeah, no, it's a bit of I didn't realise that, so it's quite interesting to see the numbers there. And but Tyler Adams, that you mentioned, obviously Lewis Cook, they will be able to fill the void, but have they got the same sort of energy as Christie? I mean, I think possibly not. They're very good at what they do, you know, their sort of holding role. I think they're both good passers of the football, but do they kind of have that same energy as Christie? I don't think so.
Well, I think you're right. I think he's a one-off, Ryan. I mean, you watch a game, and he can play 80 minutes, and he's still sprinting around 90 minutes. He's still running flat out, tackling. And we're just so lucky, or he was, that he got away without getting that 10th yellow card, which he would have been banned for, you know. But great player, and what a loss. Yeah,
no, big loss for the rest of the season. But obviously, we wish Ryan all the best with a speedy recovery, and we can't wait to see him back on the pitch with that high intensity of his, which is now looking at obviously next season. But yeah, he's got a great amount of time to recuperate and be firing all cylinders come August, which is going to be a massive asset to have him back then. But yeah, unfortunately for Bournemouth, Ryan Christie's season is over, which is a massive shame. But Paul, time to learn a little bit about yourself. So obviously you are Bournemouth born and bred, but obviously you're now living in Australia and have been for some time. So tell us a bit about yourself, what it's like to be a Bournemouth fan, you know, obviously down under, and you know, how long you've been there. You know, give us a bit of an insight into yourself.
Yeah, well, as you said, I might as well start at the beginning, I think, Matt. I was born in Bournemouth. I'm Bournemouth through and through. Lived in, where have I lived? Crikey, Charlie, hang on a minute, let me think. Boscombe, lived in Boscombe. I lived in Christchurch, lived in Moordown, lived very much locally as such, you know. Charminster, lived there for a long time. So I know the area very well, and I get very homesick sometimes when I see the shows and you walk into the ground or you're outside the ground, and I think, wow, how I'd love to be there. I lived in Bournemouth till I was 30, and minded my own business, and I met a lovely Australian girl and came over to Australia here, got married, and I've been here since 1984. So it was a huge culture shock when I arrived here with trying to follow AFC Bournemouth, as you can imagine, to get the results, because there was no internet, Matt, in those days. And to get a result, Bournemouth's game, I'd either have to ring up, and in 1984, trying to do, you know, a phone call to England was quite expensive. There was no WhatsApp, you know, it was quite expensive per minute. So I'd have to ring my sister, Carol. She's probably watching this show, good on her. I had to do that. I mean, the alternative was I had to wait till Sunday evening at 6:25 when the ABC came on the radio, and they do the football results. They'd start with Division 1, which it was then, Division 2, 3 and 4. And of course, Bournemouth was around the bottom of Division 3 or halfway up Division 3. And if somebody spoke to you and you missed it, that's it. You've had it then until you buy the newspaper Monday morning. And it was so frustrating. And I have to put this in because it's quite funny. It's not a put down, it's just a funny thing. I remember when we used to listen, I used to listen to it, and you'd get people reading the results out, and they would call some of the teams, they'd call them by the wrong name. They'd call West Ham United, they call them Westham United. And this is the classic. I'll never forget this one as long as I live. They wouldn't say Stockport County, they'd say Stockpot County. And I think, Stockpot County. To me, I found that very funny. They didn't even realise, poor things. But things got better as we went on. We got the internet in the 90s, thank goodness. And in those days, I used to go to the library and log on in the library. And I thought, wow, this is brilliant. I can actually read the Echo, and I can look at the football results and get an idea of the game. I mean, Bournemouth were very, very rarely on TV over here. They certainly weren't on in Division 3 and Division 4, no way. But that was hard work. But now, I don't know if I'm allowed to say the company's name, am I, Matt? That televised the... Yeah, I am. Yeah, there's a fabulous station called Optus. And I can watch it live if I want to, but I don't particularly want to get up at 1:30 in the morning to watch it, or 2:00 in the morning. So it's on record naturally. It just goes on record automatically, and I can get up at 6:30, make a cup of tea and sit down, and I can watch it live in my time because I avoid everything. I just go straight and watch it. I've got a front row seat home and away, and the fee for that is, I know it's brilliant, $25 a month. So it's £12.50 a month, and I've got every Bournemouth game live.
Wow.
I love it. I love it. Some of the commentators, Effin Akoko.
Yeah.
He comes on. You can tell the way he speaks and the way he respects Bournemouth. He speaks very highly of what we're doing there at the moment. There are some commentators, it wouldn't matter who Bournemouth were playing. If they beat them, the other team had an off day. It was a bad day at the office. All the cliches start to come out, and that frustrates me a bit because they can't give praise to Bournemouth, who are actually playing really well. Like, when we beat Newcastle away, incredible victory, that sort of raised a few eyebrows. And when we beat Forest 5-0, and believe you me, mate, the best goal of that game was disallowed by a toenail, to hammer them, and they got hammered. They'd had it. They were out of the game. That sort of stuff. Suddenly, people think, what is going on here at Bournemouth, And now we've gone back. We've had a bit of a blip, and I think we've gone back to where we were before at the moment over here. At the moment, with your program, I always watch every one of your programs, mate, because it's so different. The guests that you guys get on are brilliant, guests. I mean, Craig's very good at obviously getting the guests on, and I tend to do a lot of the interviews with the former players, and that's what I really like, talking to the former players and learning about stuff that I didn't know when they were playing, and recently I've done Bailey recently, and it was a real fascinating chat, and there's others in the pipeline as well, so obviously watch this space. I'm sure there'll be some more in the near future. But I mean, obviously it must have been obviously I'm in the world that we're in now, and obviously I was born in 1985, so kind of a year after you moved out to Australia, so I grew up with things like finding the results on CFAX and tuning into and teletext and tuning into Meridian Tonight and TVS and stuff like that to watch the Bournemouth news, and obviously I had the Echo, whereas you had until
of the 90s, it must have been an absolute nightmare. Obviously, like you
Well,
just said, keep up with Bournemouth. But
yeah, I think what you got to understand as well over here, their national sports cricket and rugby. I've been brainwashed to call it soccer now, but if
yes,
you talk about football, they think you're talking about rugby league, and they're fanatical with their rugby league and their cricket and Bournemouth. Sorry, football. See, I've said it. Soccer is that's awful. Soccer is a very well placed third. You know what I mean? If they're in the World Cup, Australia, good luck to them. I don't think they'll ever get very far, and I'm being totally honest.
yeah,
I'll support them. I'll watch the games, but it's a hard road for Australia in events like the World Cup and stuff.
yeah. No, I can imagine. And,
Yeah.
I mean, I know we've touched on Christie just moments ago, and I know that yourself and I are going to do some shows over the pre-season
Yeah.
about different eras that obviously you followed Bournemouth in.
Yeah.
But let's just come up to date. I mean, the current crop of Cherries players. What's your thoughts on the current squad?
If I follow the media online, I think we're going to have half a team missing and no manager next season.
Yeah,
So I don't take too much notice of it because there's something on there, and it breaks your heart to read it. I don't want to read that stuff every day, but you
No.
can't avoid it.
No.
They're talking about Dino Hewson with his 50 million release clause and all this stuff going on. I mean, as I say, we wouldn't have a team. Arsenal, apparently, I had to laugh. When I read that. I know Arsenal were after Semenyo, and they were preparing a 40 million bid. And I thought, mate, you want to start talking 50 million before you even open your mouth. And we have some brilliant players. I mean, Kirkes, they're at his age. To see him score that goal, the one where he sprinted the whole length of the field in the 88th minute to score that goal in the far corner with that low shot. I mean, the energy of that guy is incredible. That guy there. And I think another player that I was, Evan Nielsen. And I thought, I wonder what his first name is. And I bet you there's not many viewers could tell me his full name. Because I'll tell you what, mate, it's a long one. It's it's Francisco Evan Nielsen de Lima Barbosa. That's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it?
Yeah, say that again.
Yeah, it's Francisco. So I suppose he would get called Frankie or Frank.
Right.
Francisco Evan Nielsen de Lima Barbosa. Barbosa.
Right. Okay.
That's a bit of a mouthful to write every 5 minutes, isn't it? But
certainly.
And I just love him. I think this guy, you can see he's just hitting form again now. I love the Brazilian in him. That goal against Southampton when he got on the end of Tavernier's cross in mid-air, and he hits the ball in mid-air. It's just an incredible goal scorer. I think this is only, I always get my predictions wrong, but I think next season this guy is really going to flourish for us. I think he's going to hit the heights, and I think we're going to have clubs sniffing around him. He just seems to get on the end of things. The last 2 goals he scored, Matt, he's just been in that 6-yard box waiting for the keeper to palm the ball away, and he's like a rocket. He's in there, mate. I mean, those 3 penalties he won at Wolves, incredible. And there were penalties. There was no doubt about them. But don't get me started on penalties with Bournemouth, mate, because I'll never shut up. The ones we never get. The ones that get given against us. That one with Cookie in Liverpool, against Liverpool. Unbelievable. Any other team that wouldn't have got it. We wouldn't have got that.
No.
But I love Justin Kluivert. I think he's a breath of fresh air. I mean, what can you say about that guy? He scored 3 at Newcastle. What a game! That potential of this guy is incredible. Antoine's form's dipped, we know that, but I've still got a lot of faith in it. I love it when he catches the ball out of the air on his foot; he just kills it dead.
Yeah.
What skill to do that? Great players, mate. That midfield, as we were talking about, Ryan Christie, Tyler Adams, Lewis Cook, Alex Scott, brilliant stuff. You can go right through the team, can't you? Zavonier, Zava, what a player. We've spoken about Houston and Smithy's back, thank goodness. So we move on.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we're coming towards the end of the season now, and people start talking about player of the season. And I mean, if you had to pick one, I mean, I thought about it, and I'm a big Clivert fan, and I think for me, Clivert edges it for me personally. But obviously, everybody else has different views. But if you had to pick a player of the season now, who would you pick?
You got me, Matt. You've honestly got me. There's 3 or 4. I mean, where do you start?
Yeah.
We're a team of stars. We really are, from the back to the front. We're a team of superstars, mate. And I've never said that about Bournemouth. You never think you would say it, would you? Where would I go? Well, it's difficult. I might join you in Justin Clivert, and hopefully he'll be back to play Fulham. I'm really hoping he's going to be around, because we've missed him, haven't we?
Yes, yeah, definitely. I mean, you could see in the last couple of games where he would normally be, and you could see he was missing, and his creativity was missing, and we need him. We need him back for that sort of final push for this season, don't we?
Yeah, we do. I think the only error I can see in the whole of that team, what went on, was I firmly believe we should have kept Phil Billing. I think he would have come into his own, where he went on loan. Apparently he hasn't played, I don't know for sure. But we needed him when we had kids on the bench. And with respect to them, they did what they had to do. But we needed a Phil Bill to come on. I mean, that guy, you've seen him in the championship season. He's hit 35-yard screamers. That guy is skillful, mate. He's worthy of playing Premier League. Yeah. I know he doesn't suit our style, but I don't think Alex Scott suits our style. Unfortunately, maybe they're going to have to adjust him. But I think, in hindsight, I think that was an error to let him go out. We needed him. Yeah.
I mean, at the same time, obviously, we let Max Aarons go out on loan as well. We didn't have a fit right back at the time, which I thought was strange. Yeah. Obviously, Cookie did a job there. Fair play to Cookie. He didn't look out of place at right back. The last couple of games, where he kind of made appearances at right back, I thought he struggled a little bit. But during that period when he was covering right back, he did a job. But then, you kind of had a right back sat on the bench, and then he was loaned out. And I didn't quite understand that. But obviously, obviously Andoni, had his reasons, and who are we to question him? But it just seemed a bit bizarre. But yeah, Phil Bill, he's been quite unlucky this season with his minutes, and it must be frustrating for any player to be sat on the bench, especially someone of Phil Bill's quality.
What, man? People forget he made the goal. He made the goal that put us in the Premier League, mate, with that free kick against Forest.
Oh, yes.
What class. That was a class goal. He made the goal. The other one I'm thinking about, who is on loan at the moment, it'll be interesting to see what happens, is Jaden Anthony, because he's now coming into form. He's just scored 2 goals last Saturday. What's going to happen with this guy?
Yeah.
Because Andoni liked him.
Yes.
You remember he tried to put him at right back. Do you remember?
Yeah. He likes it there.
He's a good kid, good player, mate.
Yeah. It's one of those that, with the players we got that plays in his position at the minute, will he come back, and can he force his way into the squad, or is it fair to let the player go to continue his career elsewhere? I think there's definitely a decision to be made there for the player. I think.
And you know what, Matt? I think it depends which way the pendulum swings, mate. Because if we get into Europe, we're going to need Jaden Anthony. We're going to need him. There's going to be injuries. We don't go through a season without him. And he's capable of playing Premier League, that guy.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, totally agree with you there. This squad then, obviously you've been, privileged to see, the greats, the great sides of the 70s, with the McDougall, Boyers, players like that. You've seen sides in the 80s, and where does this, and this is a very difficult question, but how does this side compare to the greats that you've seen over the years? Are they the best squad we've ever had, or is it too difficult to compare? Because let's be honest, football has changed over the years, hasn't it? Over the eras.
Yeah.
Is it too difficult to compare, or would you say this is the greatest squad of all time? I mean, what would you use for that?
Yeah, you look back, there's one place we have to go to straight away, is Ted McDougall and Phil Boyer. I mean, if Ted, and it can't happen, as you say, it's never going to happen, but had Ted been in this team today, had he started banging in 49 goals, I mean, think about that. 9 in a game against Margate, 6 he scored in the FA Cup, and they're both still records, even now, 50 years later. I can remember once I was down the Brighton beach end in the early 70s, pouring down the rain, and I think we had a friendly against Man United. I think it was, I can't think of the manager. I've lost the manager's name. And I watched Ted score the most incredible goal that has stayed with me for 50 years. He did an overhead kick from the edge of the box. And in those days, overhead kicks, I mean, they weren't around. You think of his goal at Villa, the famous one with that diving header. This guy, mate, he that's why he went for 200,000 to Man United, and he got under Tommy Docherty at Man United, and I think there was some aggravation between him and Ted, because there was something went on for the Scottish team, because Tommy Docherty was involved with the Scotland team, national team as well. There was some aggro that went on there, and I don't know the details of it, but in the end, Bournemouth ended up suing Man United to get another £22,000 from them for the transfer for Ted. But I mean, if we had a goal, I mean, I love Evan Nilsson, and you had a goal scoring machine like that. He couldn't play without Phil. Phil Boyer, another brilliant player. They all left and went to Norwich, as we know. Oh, Man United, beg your pardon. And then they said they wouldn't sell Phil Boyer, and within a fortnight he was gone. He went up to Norwich, and we won't get too big a story to go into. Where do they sit? They have to be at the top of the tree, mate. They've got to be. Even with Harry's team, they've got to be up there.
Yeah, it's a very difficult one. And I appreciate that. Obviously, you've given an answer to that one, because obviously it's such a difficult question, that one. So out there at the minute, then in Australia, just to quickly touch on, there's a couple of supporter groups out there. Is there a big fan base now out there in Oz?
The only one sorry, Manny. Yeah, the only one I know about is in Sydney, and they go to the Cheers pub, which is in George Street, which is in the heart of Sydney. I did have an opportunity to go there, but the time factor is just all over the place, because most of the games are at 2 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning, or if it's a 8 o'clock kickoff with you guys, it's going to be like 7 o'clock in the morning, and it just didn't work for me. They go in there, there's a group of about 15, 20, and they have it up on the big screen up there as such. And I do know Nick, if he's watching. Hi, Nick. I went out to lunch with Nick and everything, because as I think I might have mentioned to you, I actually bought a season ticket, an online season ticket, so I could watch the games when Bournemouth were in the Championship. And Nick had to, I couldn't get through. For some reason, they wouldn't connect me. I paid about $300 for the season or something, and I couldn't get through, and Nick had to ring up someone he knew at the club for me to get through. I just couldn't connect. But even that, again, was very difficult, because when Bournemouth were in the Championship, the games, I have to get up at 1:30 to watch a 2 o'clock kickoff. And I'd watch the game half asleep, and I'd go to bed about 4 o'clock in the morning, and I couldn't sleep. And I thought, you can't record it. I couldn't record it. Just crazy. But I know about the one in Sydney. It's active. It's still going. As for the other stuff, I'm not sure.
No, I think there's about three groups altogether out there, and it's great though to see the fan base around the world now growing, isn't it? I mean, you go back to, I mean, 20 years ago, however long ago you want to go back to, but you'll go to places and people would never have heard of
I
Bournemouth.
agree.
It's massive. It's great to see the fan base growing around the world, I think.
Yeah. Well, when I mention Bournemouth to people, they say, "Oh, yeah, they're in the Premier League, aren't they, Bournemouth?" So, yeah, they do. It's become very aware since Eddie's days. You go back to 15, and I think that documentary that I've seen a couple of times, the one in America or something that was flown out to America. Yeah, people know about Bournemouth over here. They do.
Yeah.
I mean,
Great.
sometimes I'll wear this inadvertently. I'll wear this to the mall, the local mall, and someone will say, "Oh, do you support Bournemouth?" I say, "Yeah." They do. They know.
Yeah. And it's great that you've got the history of obviously growing up there and watching the greats as well, haven't you? So
In Bournemouth.
yeah,
Yeah, that's for another day, I think, Maddie. I mean, I was there in the 60s. My dad, didn't believe this one. My dad took me in 1958. Was the first time as a 5-year-old. I know I can remember always wanting to go home at half time, and he would like that. I did. I just wanted to go home. A bit too young, but yeah, mate. I went right through there. Season ticket holder a lot. Yeah, loved it. I saw the bad times. To stand in the Brighton beach end with 17 people with my raincoat on, getting drowned. To watch Bournemouth play Northampton, with respect to Northampton, or Stockport County. Put that one in. It was a bit of an experience, but we've moved on.
Yeah, no, definitely. And we obviously during the pre-season we're going to do a little series of shows, aren't we? About different eras, and so we look forward to that. So watch this space for that over the pre-season. But thanks for sharing that, Paul. A little bit of an insight into yourself and what it's like to be a Cherries fan down under. But just keeping with the theme of down under and Oz and everything. Is it? Did they use the term Oz down there, or was that just what we use over here?
No. Call Oz. Yeah, OZ. Yeah, that's right. My name is Paul. I put Paul from Oz just too long to type in Australia, but yeah, for sure. Yeah, I live in Oz. Yeah, the people know. That's right. That's the lingo.
Yeah, cool. Well, just to keep with that theme, then we'll have a look at some players that are from Oz that have played for Bournemouth over the years. There's not too many, but there's a few interesting ones. So we've had 7 players from Australia, and they have totaled 75 appearances between them, with only 2 goals. And you'll see why there's only 2 goals, because most of them are goalkeepers. But first one, and probably the most, I don't know if I'm right with this, but probably the most famous one, Adam Federici, played for Bournemouth between 2015 and 2018. Came in mainly as a backup to Artur Boric. But this guy, Paul, have you got any much recollection of this guy?
I can remember seeing him on the TV, on the ABC. They would run the live games, free. I can remember seeing him, but I must admit I didn't link him too heavily with Bournemouth at that time, because I mean, you talk about Artur, what a keeper. How's he going to get past him? Artur Boric was a brilliant goalie. No, it doesn't ring too many bells. Yeah.
No, it's he's a goalkeeper that, like you say, had a tough job to dislodge someone of Boric's class. But made 8 appearances for Bournemouth, mainly as backup goalkeeper. But he was a full international with Australia. I think he had youth caps as well, but he had 16 full caps.
Yeah, I do know the name. I know the name, Matt. Put it that way. Yeah.
One name that you might not know so well, possibly might do, is Jordan Holmes. Now, Jordan, he was with Bournemouth between 2013 and 2019. He's now actually playing for Western Sydney Wanderers, after spells at obviously Bournemouth. But he went out on loan while at Bournemouth to Weymouth, Eastbourne, St Mirren, and then after he left Bournemouth, he had spells at Ebbsfleet, before heading back over to Australia. Yeah, quite a well-capped player at youth level with 7 caps under 20, 5 caps for the under 23s. And he also was on the bench for Bournemouth a few times for the first team during the Premier League era. I do remember, I think once he was on the bench at Old Trafford against Man United. But yeah, a player that's still now playing his trade, but back home with Western Sydney Wanderers.
That team, Matt, is 3/4 of an hour from where I live, up the highway.
Right, okay.
3/4 of an hour up there. It's halfway between here and Sydney.
Right, okay.
Sydney, yeah.
So they play in the
I think they're in the National League. I think.
A-League, is it? Is that what they
I think so. Yeah.
So they're in the
I
A-League.
can't watch it. I can't. I've been spoilt, mate. You know.
Yes. Yeah. No, I understand that. Yeah.
I'm totally spoiled. I can't watch it.
Yeah.
Difficult.
Yeah. No, I can imagine. But is that the A-League? Is that their top division?
Yes.
Is it?
Yeah.
Division. So he's playing top division.
Yeah.
In Australia.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one, a name that people may remember, especially a lot of people, sort of over the last sort of decade, 15 years or so. Scott Guyett was part of the squad, the famous -17 squad, signed by Kevin Bond. Never capped for Australia. He did have quite a long-term spell at Yeovil Town. But yeah, a guy that will probably be remembered for being part of the squad from -17 and then the year after promotion back to League One. But yeah, the player that may not. Well, you got any sort of memories of this one, or?
I know the name. Obviously, he played under Eddie, but that's about it. That's about it.
Yeah. I think he was quite hampered with injuries while at Bournemouth as well. At the time he played for us, but yeah, he did play his part in the history of the club. So yeah, always good to see. And this one, Brad Smith, a bit of a funny one. This one, obviously, Brad came from Liverpool. I think with quite a lot of expectations. But obviously, he did have Charlie Daniels, the great Charlie Daniels, ahead of him. So unfortunately, he only made 5 appearances at Bournemouth. He had quite a lot of loan spells while at Bournemouth. I know that he spent 1 season with Seattle Saunders, I think, in the MLS. But yeah, quite capped well at his Australian international level with 23 full caps. But a player that never really kind of probably met his expectations, I think, this one.
Totally agree, mate. I watched him for Australia, and I linked him to Bournemouth then. I mean, he made a few appearances, 23. But what you said, spot on. I think he came with a lot of hype, and he never quite fulfilled what he was meant to do. And he went out the door pretty sharp, didn't he? There you go, 5 appearances, so he did. I don't remember where he went, but I know that he got moved on somewhere. I think a little bit out of his depth, but I don't want to say, I don't want to be nasty to him, but he didn't last too long. But I remember him playing for Australia.
I think also the timing of him coming to the club. When you've got such a masterpiece of a player like Charlie Daniels was, who that famous back four of Daniels, Francis, Elflick, Cook. That was kind of a difficult job, wasn't it, to kind of dislodge any of those kind of names in a solid.
Sure. I mean, the minute you said that name, Charlie Daniels, I'm thinking of the Man City goal. How can anybody forget that goal? No keeper in the world would have stopped that.
No.
I think of that, and I think of Steve Cook's goal against Saints, the one he blasted into the far corner. And I think of those two players with great affection. I mean, over here, that was spoken about a lot. That I think we ended up losing 2-1 with that one, didn't we? Within that City game.
Yeah, that was the one when I think there was more stoppage time played than what there needed to be, and Sterling then managed to score, like, I think the 97th plus minute or something ridiculous.
And where do they get this injury time from? Just absolutely mad. You could stand, if you stood in that pitch for 8 minutes in the centre circle, you can't tell me. That's a long time. We were robbed. On that day, we were robbed, mate.
Absolutely.
I look at the goal, and I always think about Steve Cook's save when he was, that. Oh man, that'll live in my memory. That was the most brilliant save. I love him, Steve Cook. What a goalkeeper!
There must be something with Bournemouth defenders becoming goalkeepers, because I don't know if you remember, but a certain ex-defender and ex-manager of ours actually handled the ball in a cup final for Norwich. Don't know if you remember.
No.
I think if you look it up, I think it was Mel Machin.
Oh, yeah.
That's another name from the past.
I'm afraid Mel doesn't touch Steve Cook's save, mate. That was Premier League quality keeping.
I think he done it a couple of times for us, Cookie, actually, didn't he? I think he done it twice.
I mean, he used to save him with his chest, didn't he? Just throw himself at the ball. What a player! What a servant!
Yeah.
And he never got his testimonial. He was promised one. Never got it.
Gutted by that, because I'd love Steve Cook. I mean, just that. I mean, the game at Fulham during the Championship season when he made some sort of like treble block.
Yeah.
The way he just used his body, always put his body on the line. Great defender. He's now at QPR, skipper of QPR. Now he's still playing, and great professional. Really great.
Is Steve in the Hall of Fame, or will he be nominated at some point?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, we'll have to watch this space on that one. We'll have to see if he does get a nomination at some point and join the other names that we've got already in our Hall of Fame, which we've built up over the last sort of couple of years. But that is definitely someone that needs to be a candidate, though, Paul. Definitely.
Oh, sure.
So this name here might be of interest to, or might trigger some memories. I couldn't find a picture of him in a Bournemouth shirt, but he did have a long career at Celtic. Was Scott McDonald, who came on loan to Bournemouth from Southampton at the time, and he made 8 appearances for Bournemouth, scoring 1 goal during the season where we went to Cardiff in the playoff final. He was actually on the bench for the playoff final. But I think this guy's played quite a lot of times for Australia, and he's got a lot of caps at youth levels as well. Is he quite well known out there?
No. He doesn't ring a bell with me. I mean, the other guy, McDonald, with the ginger hair, and I can't think of his first name.
Sean.
Sean McDonald. What a player. Scott McDonald, I'm afraid that one went over my head, Matty.
Like I say, he was only a lone player for us from Saints. Played during the 2002-2003 season. And I think he had a long spell at Celtic, and then he eventually went back to and a couple of clubs in Scotland actually, and then eventually I think he ended his career back in the A-League in Australia. I think memory serves me right. Another player that might be remembered by some fans in 2006, Adam Griffiths, defender, joined us, made 7 appearances and scored 1 goal. He also played for Brentford in the UK, but then I think he finished his career, and the rest of his career was mainly in the A-League, and he's now assistant manager of, I think it is, Wellington Phoenix, which is the rival club to Bill Foley's Auckland. But I can remember this guy playing for us actually, and I think if I remember rightly, I mean I'm going back to quite a while ago now. I think we gave him this number 25 shirt. I think he had, and I remember him scoring his goal. I remember watching it. I can't remember whether it was home or away. I remember being there. And I was quite impressed with him. I quite liked the player, but I can't remember the reasons why he left. But any sort of memories for you on this?
Not being honest, not really. He's got a good haircut, hasn't he, Matt? But it doesn't ring any bells for me at all. 2 Aussie caps, I wouldn't know.
No, I'm sure maybe for Bournemouth fans watching this, I'm sure he may not trigger many memories for them, but I just remember his goal. I think it's a header, I think. But Andy Petterson. This is a goalkeeper who had a long affiliation with Charlton and quite a lot of clubs actually in the UK. But he never actually made. I know it says 7 appearances there, but he actually never made an appearance for Bournemouth. I think he kind of signed, came in, and went straight out again. I think around the time he came in, we were having a lot of goalkeepers coming in and out on loan, and then one got injured, another one had to come in, and he never actually did play for Bournemouth. But a name that has actually been associated with the club, and he made 2 appearances for the under-20s for Australia. But a bit more of a legend now coming up with this one with Neil Young. So obviously we all know Youngie's affiliation with AFC Bournemouth. Obviously joined from Tottenham during the first Great Escape season, and then went on to make well over 500 appearances, if memory serves me right, for Bournemouth. And then he moved on to Australia, and he became associated with Cumberland United. Now, Cumberland United are a club that plays in the second tier of the Australian soccer leagues under the top flight A league, and their ground is called the A.A. Bailey Reserve. I don't know too much, but it says here that their manager is actually Neil Young.
Yep.
So I'm assuming that Young is out there managing them, as well as having his own football academy out there.
I think the club might be based. I had a look at it, and I think he might be based in South Australia, down there, which is a long way from where I am. But it's a big land, mate, a big area over here, I can tell you. He's down there, and I believe he won the league or something a couple of years ago. He had some success there. And as for running an academy, well, top man, he knows his stuff, doesn't he?
Yeah,
to be picking up young players, knows his stuff, mate. Yeah.
He won was it the grand final?
I think I read it somewhere there, Matt. Yeah. And I mean, what a servant to Bournemouth as well. Another candidate for your Hall of Fame if he's not already in it. I'm not sure who's in it. But...
Yeah, no, he's not actually in it, Neil Young. But he's definitely someone that should be in it. But it says here that he's actually the manager of them at the moment. So, so they won the State League Premiers in 2016, and the State League, and they were State League champions in 2016 as well. And in 2019, they were State League champions. So, it looks like there's a bit of success there since Younger was associated with them. But I've looked at his football academy as well. It looks like a great little setup out there. Football academy. So, and there's another player as well that's associated, sort of going back in time a little bit, which is Trevor Morgan, which is a name that you'll remember well.
Yeah, saw him many times, Matt. To describe him as a player, he was a tall centre forward. He was good in the air, and I think he had 2 spells with Bournemouth. The first one, he was a young lad. I don't think he was that successful in the first one, and I can remember him going, but I think I read about it. It was Mansfield Town, but I can't remember. He probably went on loan there, and I think Harry brought him back. And the second time he'd come back, he'd matured a lot. Playing up front there, he could score goals. He was a sort of, how can I describe him? He'd be a nuisance. He'd be on the edge of the box, and he'd be a muscly player. And he'd stand up for himself in that position of centre forward. He put himself around, He got into double figures, I believe, a couple of times, but he was good value. Where we were at that point, he was a good player for Bournemouth.
Yeah. I mean, like you say, about his first spell, he scored 13 times in 53 league games. But when he returned, he made 88 league appearances, scored 33 times. So a lot more prolific on his second
That's
spell.
right, and that's a good return.
Yeah.
That's nearly one every other game.
Yeah.
Not bad if you're playing in a team that's not performing that brilliant.
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah,
good.
definitely. And he's actually, I think he's based in Perth now. I don't know how close Perth is to you exactly, or big old.
7.5 hours on a plane.
So yeah, not too far then. Um, but yeah, no, he's based in Perth, and he's had various different coaching jobs over the years. When you actually look at his record of coaching jobs, he's had quite a lot across the whole sort of that area of the world. He's been in Asia, I think, as well. Run down. So yeah, I mean, if you go back to his playing days, he represented Bournemouth, Mansfield, Bristol City, Exeter, Bristol Rovers, and I think he's one of only maybe a couple of players that was actually transferred between Bristol Rovers and Bristol City.
Wow.
Bolton Wanderers, Colchester United, Exeter City, and then I think he went out to China, played for Happy Valley and played for a team called South China before returning back to England, where he made one appearance at Birmingham and a few appearances at Exeter again, but that's while he was on the coaching staff at both clubs. Right. And then, when you go through his managerial record, he's been absolutely everywhere, all across sort of Asia, and his last club was Sorrento FC, which is a Western Australia semi-professional soccer club based in Northern Perth. So, a name that I've heard of, but over the years,
he was good. He was all right, Matt. You'd have enjoyed watching him. He's put himself around, mate. He wouldn't be knocked off the ball. And I can't believe he's 68.
Yeah. He's one that my dad fondly remembers as well. He remembers him very well watching play. One of the names, like when you're growing up, and like my dad is of similar era to yourself. Watching all those greats, and he's always said the McDougals and like your Luther Blissett, and over the years he's mentioned Mickey Cave. So many players that he's mentioned to me that obviously that I've never ever got to see. And Trevor Morgan has been one that he has mentioned to me over the years.
You mentioned the name Mickey Cave there. I bumped into Harry Redknapp in the 80s when it was La Lupa in Charminster. You remember La Lupa?
Yeah, that's his restaurant
there. Yeah. It used to be an Italian restaurant. I bumped into Harry, and Harry, he'd talk to anybody. Great guy, as you know. Bumped into him there, and he said, "Man," he said, "you look like me." I mean, I used to look younger, He said, "You look like Mickey Cave," and I said, "Mickey Cave." And he went on. He raved on. Harry was raving on about what a player Mickey Cave was. He died very young.
Yeah.
And another player earlier than that your father would know is Alan Groves.
Yes.
That man! He made Josh King look slow. He is that fast a left winger, Alan Groves. He died young, heart trouble, and I believe Mickey Cave was a similar thing. They both died young.
Yeah.
We've got the Mickey Cave trophy still, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
That's awarded.
Yeah.
Good players.
Yeah, no, definitely. And when we do our little series over the summer, it'd be great to hear a bit more on those players, actually, which I'm sure you've got some stories about.
Good stuff, man.
Yeah, no, looking forward to that big time. But yeah, that's just touched on some sort of connections between Bournemouth and Oz anyway. But we've recently been asking on our Facebook page about who your favourite AFC Bournemouth striker is, and we've had quite a lot of people commenting with some different names, which we'll have a look through now. But the first three that names that have cropped up, they're already actually been inducted into our Hall of Fame, which obviously we do every now and then on the show. Steve Fletcher, Ted McDougall, Luther Blissett. But Paul, what's your views on each of these players, just briefly?
Well, I watched Luther Blissett score 4 goals against Hull City. I think it was a midweek game, and Bournemouth won 5-1. And this guy, he knew where the net was. Luther, they used to call him Luther Miss It at Watford, but he didn't. He was bang on for Bournemouth. I saw him training in Kings Park. I must have been visiting over there at the time. As we know, they used to train in Kings Park.
Yeah.
Saw him over there then. Top striker, played for England. Ted, I don't need to say much about Ted, do I? I mean, it's all there. The records still stand today. He'd have to be the all-time great of Bournemouth. Got to be right up there.
Yeah.
Steve Fletcher, saw him play a lot of games. Always impressed with Steve. He's got a stand named after him, so he must have done something. So's Ted.
Yeah.
Reminds me, I have to tell you guys, we must do something for Eddie Howe. We've got to. We have to do some recognition for the guy. Without him, we wouldn't be where we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's black and white to me. Why not? Why haven't we got the Eddie Howe stand?
Yeah. I think hopefully when maybe the stadium's added to obviously the fans, maybe that might be the case. Maybe the club will name stands after Eddie, which, like you say, is deservedly so. See, with we wouldn't be where we are now, but it's got to be done. But these strikers here, like I say, when I started watching Bournemouth, Luther was coming to the end of his time at Bournemouth, so I don't know if I ever saw Luther. Obviously, Ted obviously didn't, but obviously heard great stories and read books. I've got his book as well, read books on him, read facts about him, and heard from people that have actually watched him and what a great player he was. But Steve Fletcher for me, I grew up watching Steve and legend of the club, and I think for me, if you were a striker, he would be your perfect strike partner because he did all the hard work. He held the ball up, flicked the ball on. I think defenders were more worried about Fletch than someone that was going to whip round him and actually finish because Fletch massively underrated, I think, as a target.
Again, Matt, without his goal,
exactly,
we wouldn't be talking today.
Exactly.
We'd be playing Paul Town with respect to them or something. Without him, we wouldn't be another one. We wouldn't be where we are.
Exactly. Such a vital piece of Bournemouth's history.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But there were some other strikers as well that were mentioned, which we'll go through now. Now, these would be the candidates for our next inductee into our little Hall of Fame, which will go live on the Facebook page over the next few days. And then whoever obviously gets the most votes will be inducted. So the first candidate is Trevor Alott. Alott. Yes, yeah. Trevor Alott. 147 appearances, 27 goals. Now, again, a player that I never had the privilege of watching, but have you got any sort of memories of Trevor?
I have memories of Trevor. He was a similar style to Trevor Morgan. They were both very similar centre forwards. His goal ratio, if you're a centre forward, your job is to score goals. It's not the best, but he was another one. He wouldn't stand any nonsense, And I'm not sure if he went to, I may be wrong here, or came from Crystal Palace. I'm not sure. Something in my head about that. Played a lot of games, didn't he? Nearly hit the 150.
Yeah. He's a name that I've heard about over the years, but I'm not too sure whether. Yeah, I think you're right. Was it Palace he came from? I'll have to.
There's something in my head telling me possibly, but I couldn't be sure. He might have scored against Palace. I might have got it all wrong.
Yeah, because I get this guy confused with someone else from the same sort of era. Trevor Alott. And I tell you who I get confused with. Yeah, that's right. He came from Palace.
He did.
I always he came from Palace. I always get confused with a guy that played for City, scored 3 goals against Bournemouth, and then Redknapp signed him. Is it Paul Molden?
Oh, he got injured, terribly injured. What a player! Yeah, I watched him. Yeah, what a player.
Yeah, that's another player that I don't know why I seem to confuse the two. Got no reason why, but I seem to.
Yeah, no, completely. He had blonde hair, completely different guy, but top player, Paul Molden. Yeah, got badly injured.
Yeah. So Trevor Aylock, our first nominee. A second one is Jermaine Defoe.
Yeah.
Now, what do you say about Jermaine? 65 appearances, 23 goals. I know his second spell at Bournemouth wasn't the most. Well, I'd say probably his most favourable time at a football club. He was kind of on the bench, and I don't think we kind of used him to his strengths really. But his first spell at Bournemouth, that season 2000-2001,
Yeah.
when I was about 15, 16, I remember never seeing a striker in my time like him. He was just something else, absolutely something.
I was very lucky. I was in the UK visiting my sister at that time, and I saw him score. And I saw him score a goal. I can remember it from the right-hand side, near the corner flag. Somehow, he was a goal scorer supreme. This guy,
Yeah.
Goal, and I think he score 6 in a row or something on loan for Bournemouth.
10,
Was
I
it?
think.
That's right.
Was it like a post World War II record or something he
Oh,
broke? Remember right?
What a player. I agree. I mean, how can you have all this lot? How can you vote for one?
Yeah.
It's impossible, isn't it?
It's
something else.
Yeah, great striker, and he was always will live long in my memory. Was one of probably the greatest. When he was young, I mean, he was. I just remember when he made his debut at Stoke. He made his debut at Stoke City, and he came on. We had the white shirt on that season, and he came on, and this shirt must have been like triple XL. It was massive. You could see his shorts. The shirt was so long, and he just jumped out of nowhere. This little kid just jumped out of nowhere. I think he outjumped 2 defenders and banged in a header.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow. I was just like, when I first saw that guy, I thought, wow, we've got, as like a 15, 16-year-old, it was like, wow, this guy's some sort of, this guy's one to watch, But yeah, great memories of Jermaine, for me.
We got him courtesy of Harry, didn't we? Online.
Yeah. I think at the time it was when Sean O'Driscoll had just taken over from Mel Machin.
That's right. You're right.
And I think Mel made the phone call to Harry, because Mel was director of football, saying, we kind of need, goals. We weren't scoring enough goals, and Harry said, "I'll send you this kid down." And I think Mel was a bit like, "Well, we don't really need a kid. We need someone with a bit of experience." Harry was like, "No, this kid will score you goals," and he did. And I think the rest is history there. But a season that, for me, looking back on it, we should have got into the playoffs that year. I was at the game at Reading when we needed to beat Reading. Reading were already secure in the playoffs, but I don't think Reading needed to face Bournemouth in the playoffs, and I think that's how it would have worked. And we drew 3-3 on the day. And
Steve Fletcher was on. Was Steve Fletcher alongside him, wasn't
he? Yeah. And I think Jermaine was actually quoted at some point, might have been quoted, or something was written to say, Fletch, helped him a lot while he was on loan at Bournemouth. And big man, little man, I suppose, wasn't it? That kind of combination always kind of works, doesn't it, up front? So fantastic player. And I would say it's a hero of mine, Jermaine Defoe, definitely. Tony Funnell. So this guy here is probably someone that you'll remember pretty well.
This bloke, he would run and run and run. When he came from Saints, I don't know why Saints let him go, because he was a real success here. He got promotion from Division 4 up to Division 3, and great centre forward, top player. Look at that. I mean, again, won every 3 games.
Yeah.
He was in. They had a good team. Under Webb? I forgot. David Webb. It was David Webb's side, and he was in it, and they played really well that season. And that used to be on TBS, the old TBS. I used to record it on a VHS recorder over there in those days, and watch the games in the 80s. Yeah, would have been great.
Yes.
Great player.
Yeah, and obviously he's quite well. I think he went on to Poole Town, and I think he's very well associated with Poole Town as well. He also played for Brentford. So yeah, a name that I've heard of loads and loads of times over the years, and a lot of people still fondly remember Tony, don't they? And
you'd have enjoyed watching him, Matt.
Yes,
the effort that he put in. I mean, he wasn't a full-on Ryan Christie, but the effort was there. He would run that guy.
Yeah.
Great
It would be nice to sort of go back in time and actually watch these guys. Really would. But our next one, Trevor Morgan, who we've spoken about again, couldn't find a photo of him in a Bournemouth shirt. Unfortunately, I tried and
that's strange.
Time was against me in the end, so I just tried to use the same one. But like you say, I mean, what we've just briefly spoken about. His goal ratio wasn't too bad, was it?
No.
And 141 appearances in total, 46 goals. So,
yeah.
Trevor Morgan is.
I'll tell you what, Matt, he would have earned those goals because he wasn't a penalty taker or anything. He would have earned those goals,
Actually, that's an interesting. Because obviously, if you're not the penalty taker, obviously, you haven't got those to rely on, have you? So, it's. I'm gonna look up a bit more on Trevor, I think. But Brett Pittman now, again, from my era, what can I say? I would say Brett is probably, and I know I love Jermaine and I've spoken about Jermaine, but for me, I would say probably Brett is the most natural goal scorer I've seen play in a Bournemouth shirt. Now, I know that's probably quite, and I know we've obviously got Eva Nilsson now. We've had Callum, who we'll chat about shortly, and Callum Wilson, players like that. We've had some great goal scorers over the years, but I think for me, for my time, my era, I would say for me, Brett is probably the most natural goal scorer I've seen.
I mean, I watched that Fulham game live over here, the 5-1 game at Craven Cottage, and he went through half their team, didn't he? He went through half their team, turning this way, that way, and scored. I agree with you, mate. And I think Eddie let him go a year too early. In hindsight, I mean, we don't know better than Eddie. We don't know what was going on. But wherever he's played, he's always scored goals.
And he's still doing so.
He is, mate. Yeah.
He's now with Manchester Town, and he came off the bench. I think we discussed it on Cherry Picking myself and Craig a few weeks ago. Came off the bench and scored a 16-minute hat trick. So he's still got it. And I think, and it's something that I've always said. If you're a natural goal scorer, it doesn't matter how old you are, what league you play in, you will always find the back of the net.
I agree.
And
you just triggered something in me there, James Hayter. I can remember being at work with his hat trick, and his parents had left to go on the ferry to Isle of Wight or something. That. And one of my work colleagues came up and said, "Paul," I said, "Yeah." He said, "Have you heard about what's happened in Bournemouth?" I said, "What do you mean?" I see again communication. I had no idea. 3 goals in how many minutes was it now? I can't even remember. Ridiculous.
146 seconds or something like that. I've got a poster of it somewhere, but I haven't got it to hand.
I mean, we've had some players, haven't we? Let's be honest, over the years, mate. To do that, no one's going to do that. Who's going to do that now?
It's it's. I'm gonna have to. I've got a signed poster of a shot of each of his finishes.
Wow!
And it's not here. It's not in this room, but I've got it, and it says on there exactly how long it took. So I've got to make sure I get this right.
That's okay. Doesn't matter. That's fine. But
was it 146 seconds or something like that?
I think you're not far off, mate. Yeah, you're not far off. That's incredible, isn't it?
There it is. Right, it is 2 minutes and 140 seconds.
Wow.
2 minutes and 20 seconds. So I was 6 seconds over.
And
Sorry.
that must have been
Sorry,
a midweek.
It
You
was-
did well, mate. Yeah, midweek night game.
It was
I mean, you
Tuesday
look at the record.
against Wrexham.
I mean, we haven't got much silverware, but the records we hold that one. We hold Ted's records.
Yeah.
You know, unbelievable the
Yeah.
stuff that we've done over the
Yeah.
years.
February the 24th, 2004.
Was it? I remember hearing about it at work. Yeah.
He came on in the 84th minute and scored his hat trick in the 86th, 88th minutes.
And
Beat
do you know what, Matt?
Yeah.
That was an absolute rarity. I believe I saw that on 9 News. I think that came up on
That
9
went-
News.
That went
In
worldwide.
Australia. I beg
Yeah.
pardon?
That went worldwide.
Yeah,
That
well, it did over here. It
Yeah.
definitely did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that he beat a previous record, which was held by Jimmy Scarf of Gillingham
Right.
in 1952. So he beat a record, which was held since 1952.
No one's going to beat that, Matt. Nobody's going to beat that.
No, I mean, wow, what a record to have. But
Oh.
that's a great player. Yeah, loved Hates, loved him. But
Sorry, Matt, I'm getting you sidetracked here, Matt.
no, no issue with sidetracking, no issue with that. Our next one, now this guy is someone that my dad used to rave about. I think he played at a World Cup while he was with Bournemouth.
With Ireland, Northern Ireland or Northern Ireland. Yeah, I watched it.
Yes, I did a show with Johnny, who's from Northern Ireland, and we did a show similar to our Wales one, which we did recently. We picked a Cherries squad from Northern Ireland and Colin Clark. I think Colin Clark, there's a really good, interesting fact. I'd have to ask Johnny, and Johnny, if you're watching this, pop it in the comments. There's an interesting fact, a World Cup fact about Colin Clark, and for some reason it slipped my mind. But 50 appearances, 28 goals. I think he had a spell on loan with Bournemouth as well when he went to Saints. He had a short loan spell.
I think he scored. I think he scored in the World Cup for Northern Ireland. I'm pretty sure he did. I watched him over here. I watched him over here in the World Cup. I wish Harry. It was Harry. I think he was under Harry, wasn't he?
Yeah.
When he was at Bournemouth, I wish he'd have held him another season. Could have held on to him, but I guess it's finances.
Yeah.
He was brilliant for Bournemouth.
Yeah, it's like I say. My dad always says, Colin Clark was a fantastic player for Bournemouth, and I mean, a great retro shirt there as well. The famous Nolan shirt there, fantastic.
The builders, the builders.
Yeah, Nolan's, great shirt. But great shirt, great player. And next one, well, here we go. This guy, Bill Boyer, like they say, Ted McDougall, gives a lot of credit to Phil, doesn't he? Their partnership, and 140 appearances, 46 goals.
And you know, Matt, when Ted was banging them in left, right and centre, this guy was not far behind him. He was hitting 17, 20, goals at the same time as a forward line. Unbelievable. Ted said that he had to play with him. That was it.
I mean, what they must have had it must be great as a striker to have such an understanding with your fellow striker like they had. It's like you say.
He was another guy. He'd run for the team. Never stopped running, Phil. Great
player. And do you think he's sometimes in the shadows of Ted?
Oh, definitely. But I think for people that know football, and I've used the word again, football, not soccer. People that know football they associate him straight away with him. I mean, he left. He went to, where did they go? They went to Norwich, I think. Then they ended up at Southampton together, which I didn't like. To have Ted playing for Saints, and then Ted came back to Bournemouth in the twilight of his career, and he scored 8 goals then, and I loved it when he came back to watch Ted again. Obviously, he was older, but he still scored. Unbelievable.
Great era to have watched Bournemouth in. Great era. And
You know what? You know what, Matt? How did they ever get 22,000 in that ground? 23,000 in that ground for league games? How did they do it?
Yeah.
You know?
I think there's one big attendance that my dad remembers being at. Was it Villa? And they had some ridiculous amount. This is when the South End used to go further back.
Yep.
I think towards the end they boarded it off and pushed everyone a bit forward because it wasn't safe. But he remembers when it used to go right to the back. And some of the figures he said that were in there, numbers wise, is unbelievable. Yeah, you look at the old ground and you think, where did they put them all?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, what a great atmosphere though that must have been.
Oh.
Yeah, that era. Great, absolutely great. This guy here, so Mr. Callum Wilson, Bournemouth goal machine, as we used to chant at the time. 187 appearances, 67 goals. I mean, for me, the biggest thing with Callum, great striker, but the injuries he unfortunately had. If he never had them, the amount of goals, more appearances and goals he would have made for Bournemouth. That tally there would be a lot different. But I always enjoyed watching Callum. But for yourself, Callum, great striker.
Yeah, I only saw him on TV, Matt. I've never seen him live. But to come back from 2 ACLs he had, didn't he? Not one. To come back, and I think he was playing for Newcastle in the week. I saw him come on late in the second half. Eddie put him on.
Yeah.
And he's running around like he used to play for us. If we could get him, I don't know. Maybe he's too gone. But if we could get him next season as a backup player in the squad, I don't know what his contract is with Newcastle. He's Eddie's favourite. Eddie's loved him all the way through.
Yeah,
you can see it. You can see it. Him and Matt Ritchie, they were Eddie's favourites. You can see that. I'd love to get him back. He's a Bournemouth man. We know that.
Yeah, he's definitely one that's going to stay in the history books, isn't he?
His bit of magic. His bit of magic at West Ham. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. What a memory. Fair play to him as well. He's won that the major trophy with Newcastle this season in the Carabao Cup, the old League Cup, whatever people called it. But fair play to him, and like you say, to come back from those 2 ACLs is some players don't ever make it back. So for him to make it back on 2 occasions and still have the career he's had is and playing for England, gone to the World Cup, what a career. And then lastly, Keith East. Now I couldn't find any stats. There are stats somewhere, but I ran out of time unfortunately. But Keith East is a name that I don't really know much about personally. But
okay, I watched him play in the 60s for Bournemouth. He played centre forward. He's 80. He's still alive, and he's 80. Yeah.
Oh, bless, right, okay.
He's still alive. I don't think we'll be signing him up to anytime soon, but he's still alive. Gangly centre forward. I watched him one game that comes to mind very briefly. I'm conscious at the time. One game that comes to mind is when he played against Liverpool. Had a perfectly good goal disallowed in that game, and I'm sure I have a memory of him hitting the bar with a bullet header from the edge of the box. And this was against Liverpool in their prime. Bournemouth drew 0-0 in the 3rd round of the Cup, and I thought it was 66. I was wrong. It was 68. I was at that game, and he was like a gangly centre forward. He never scored too many goals, but he again was a nuisance. He's good in the air. And I think the reason it came to an end at Bournemouth was along came Ted. I think so. Ted came down from York. Freddie Cox signed Ted, 69 or something. You're not going to play him above Ted as such when Ted arrived. I remember him. Can remember him very well. Yeah. He used to. I'll tell you, he used to play alongside a guy. This is for older viewers. Anybody listening? Ken Pound, and Ken. Wow, he is another run. Ken Pounds, what a player. Yeah.
10 pounds.
Yeah. And their shirts were pretty classic, mate. Have a look at a 68 Bournemouth shirt.
Yes.
They were pretty classic in those days, I'll tell you.
Yes. classics.
Lovely time.
I've got a framed picture with all the shirts over the decades, and those sort of late 60s, 70s shirts are proper classics.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Proper classics. But just to give a rundown then on those that will be going onto the Facebook page to be voted for. So we've got Trevor Alott, Jermaine Defoe, Tony Funnell, Trevor Morgan, Brett Pittman, Colin Clark, Phil Boyer, Callum Wilson, and Keith East. So that's the names that are up for voting. And like I say, the post will go live on Facebook. It might already be live by the time you're watching this, so do check it out. But yeah, that is pretty much all we've got time for, and we've disappeared. There we are. We're back on the screen, but we disappeared there slightly. We're back there. We've got some gremlins in the system, but let's get the Cherry back up before we finish off. So the clues were his position was centre back. Played for Norwich, Marwood FK, AFC Bournemouth, Gillingham, and Gravesend and Northfleet. It cost the Cherries £30,000 as a transfer fee from Norwich, and he played 160 games, scoring 10 goals for the Cherries. So I know I asked you at the beginning, Paul.
Yeah.
Any ideas?
Haven't got a clue.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, no worries. Well, this week's guest, the Cherry, is Adrian Pennock. That's a name that I'm sure rings a bell for you.
The name does. I never saw him play. I don't remember seeing him play.
Yeah.
That's probably why I was stuck with it. But no.
I do remember watching him play, and went on to Gillingham after, and was played in the, I think he played in the famous playoff final against Man City back in the late 90s. So but yeah, that's this week's guest, the Cherry, Adrian Pennock. So yeah, it's been great to have you on, Paul.
I seem to be disappearing into the dark here. We're getting dark over here, mate.
What time is it dark there at the minute?
What time is it now? It's 10 to 6 in the evening.
And it's already dark?
Yeah, well, we just had the clocks changed last weekend. So we're now 9 hours ahead of you guys. So, yeah.
So you're 9 hours ahead. Right, okay. Okay. Yeah. Yes, it's I know I contacted you the other day, and I didn't realise it was so early in the morning.
5:30 in the morning. Yeah, I was up. That's all right. I was out training, Matt. Not really.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, Paul, and I'm sure we'll have you on again in future if you'd like to join us. And obviously, like I say, we've got a series of shows that we're going to go over, sort of 60s, 70s, 80s, and to gather up some of your memories and share your thoughts on Bournemouth from different eras, which we're looking forward to.
Beauty up this sleeve, Matt, I'll tell you. But
excellent.
Look, thanks so much, Matt. It has been a pleasure talking to you guys, and I love your show. What you're doing, you're going on record for eternity, and you're putting these things in place for people in years to come that will look at this and think, "Wow, did that?" It's history. You're making that. You're actually making history. You are. You're putting it on record.
Your kind words there. That's great.
No, really, I mean it, mate. Yeah. Well done.
We do really appreciate that, and like I say, we'll have you on Cherry Picking again sometime soon, which would be great. Just thanks for joining me, Paul. It's been a pleasure, and let's hope we can get that result this coming Monday against Fulham and really kickstart towards the end of the season. It's going to be a difficult one.
I beg your pardon?
It's going to be a difficult one, Fulham.
I'm going to pay the electricity bill next week, so we'll have a bit of light in the place, right? But, look, I think we'll do it. I think it's going to be a close thing, but I think we'll do it. I think if Ever's on form and we get Justin back, we're going to be right. And Fulham are hot and cold. They're nothing. I don't think they're as good a team as Bournemouth. It depends on Harry Wilson. If Harry Wilson comes back, they're talking about he might play. If he comes back, mate, we could be in for a bit of a handful with him, but I think we'll be right.
yeah, fingers crossed. But until the next time, all I can say now is up the cherries, and see you all on the next one.
Lovely. Thanks, Matt. Bye.
Talksport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.